I don't think most families need to panic, but I do think it's time we relearn some of the skills we've forgotten. Every loaf of homemade bread, every shelf of herbs, every simple product we learn to make ourselves, and every bucket of food we store makes our family a little less dependent on fragile systems. We've all seen how quickly prices can rise, supply chains can be disrupted, and ingredients can change without much, if any, notice. I can't control those things, but I can control what I learn, what I make, and how I prepare my home. Today I'm taking you along as we try a new homemade conditioner bar recipe, bake fresh milled bread, take a look at our herbal shelves, and I'll give you a full tour of how we store food for our family. So before we get into the pantry tour, I wanted to start with something I've been working on for the blog, these homemade hair conditioner bars. Over the past few years, I've really been trying to focus on learning simple, practical skills that help our family save money and become a little more self-sufficient. Some of these skills are in the kitchen and some are with the herbal remedies and some are things like making products we use every day. Today I'm trying a little experiment with these conditioner bars, then we'll make some fresh milled bread, and while the dough is rising, I'll take you on a full tour of our pantry and food storage and show you how we use it all together in everyday life. Some of the products that I wanted to start making included hair care products for our family. So I wanted to start with this hair conditioner bar and give it my little herbal flair twist. I am using up some of my chamomile infused coconut oil that I have shown you guys in a previous video, and also some calendula infused oil. Again, I have shared that process with you guys previously, and I will link all of that down below. So on this day, I am creating a really simple herbal hair conditioner bar. And I will tell you, this came out phenomenal. I was just using it and I love it. So it is super simple. I did have to buy a couple ingredients specifically for this, and I will link the recipe to this down in the description box below, and you can find everything there. Chances are, if you are a DIYer like myself, you probably have all the ingredients. Whether or not you have any infused oils on hand, you can definitely just use regular oils, but I would definitely give this recipe a try if this is something that interests you. One skill I think every family can benefit from learning is how to make a simple loaf of bread. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't need fancy equipment to get started. Bread is just one of those basic skills that saves money over time, helps you make the most of simple pantry staples, and gives you confidence that you can feed your family with ingredients you already have on hand. Today I'm trying this recipe that I have shared with you guys before, but today I'm going to be using milk instead of water to see how it changes the texture, because I'm always experimenting and learning right alongside of you. Every loaf teaches me something new, and that's really what this journey is all about. On this day, I am using my Nutrimill, uh, and we are grinding up some hard red wheat and some hard white wheat for this. I've shared in a recent video how I started adding about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to my bread. And then to this recipe, I've also been adding an egg, and now I am substituting the water for the milk, like I mentioned. And I will tell you right now, this was probably the best I have ever had fresh ground flour come out. And I did everything probably absolutely backwards and wrong. So as I am grinding the flour, the bowl was filling up. So I just went ahead and added 3 cups of the flour to the blender before I had even added in my yeast or my liquid so that it could start blooming. And everything came out fantastic because the secret was mixing it together and then letting it sit. And again, I did not add all of the flour in the beginning, so it was still pretty liquidy. And it, like I said, it came out really well, and I will show you that later in this video. I did warm up the milk for a little bit in the microwave for about 30 seconds, I believe, to help activate that yeast. Otherwise, it probably would have needed to sit there just a little bit longer. If you do not have a grain mill, that is absolutely fine. You can still do these recipes and make your own bread and bread products with all-purpose flour or bread flour, almond flour, essentially. Whatever you have on hand and a recipe that works for your family. The whole goal here is to find what works for you and your family and what you guys eat and what is important to you so that you can learn those skills. So first I'm going to talk about why we do food storage, especially for a large family in what I consider a very small house. We're only about 1,600 square feet for our house, 3-bedroom, and we're actually utilizing the garage as my husband's office. We fitted it with its own AC and heater system, so all his stuff is out there, so we can't really store anything out there. So I'm gonna grab my little notes here. And one of the main reasons that I have been describing to you guys of why we do this is for rising food prices right now. Granted, we've been doing this for several years now, probably back since 2019-ish, 2020-ish is when we really started considering our pantry as a savings account in many different aspects. We are feeding 7 people on 1 income. By having enough food to feed our family of 7, it helps us feel better. It helps us not be so anxious, especially in like the winter time when there's storms and things along those lines, or if, you know, heaven forbid my husband lost his job, we have that buffer in between any kind of him getting another job, me going back to work, whatever the future may hold. We have a good pantry to pull from, and so we know that whatever money we do have in our savings or anything like that can go towards keeping the roof over our head and not just keeping our bellies full. We can buy on sales, we can shop less often, so we're not driving as far. We live 20-30 minutes from places like Costco and Winco, so we're saving on gas, we're saving on our time and energy, which is, in my opinion, is invaluable. It reduces waste. I'm cooking less often because I am making things and I'm freezing them, I'm canning them. I am putting them in the fridge for several different meals because I did one big hunk of meat or one big thing of rice. I'm not just doing small little things throughout the week. And like I mentioned, the biggest thing for us is the rising inflation and the just living life in less fear because of that, and potential job losses down the road. Who knows? We never know. Or, you know, death, illness. I mean, my husband has his broken foot right now. That has been fun in itself. Not looking forward to anything else happening. So that is why we do our pantry. Just precursing this is a living, breathing, working pantry in a small home. So this is chaotic. I am not the type A personality when it comes to storing. You need more water. It is a small house. We utilize what we can. This is pretty because I look at it every day. I do look at behind the couch, and it is what it is. I have nowhere else to put it. Stuff in the pantry, and I know I have not cleaned up for y'all like if you were coming to my house. So what you see is what I live in. So please be nice in the comments. This is a working pantry. This is not a Pinterest pantry by any means, okay? You've been warned. So as you can see, I have buckets all along here. And this is, depending on the product, this is going to be several months worth of food for us. We have our shoes on top because it's right here behind our couch. Like I said, this is real life for us. So depending on what it is, like this is our popcorn. So this lasts us quite a bit. I get the 25-pound bags from Azure that I've shared with you before. This is Kamut wheat berries. And then I have, what is this one? So if you're doing buckets, labeling, top and side, very, very important. Cornmeal, and then I have black beans, which I will also show you black beans in another place. This is just because I bought them and didn't want to store them all in one place because we have a small house. So then I have like lentils, I have the split peas, I have the all-purpose flour, and then I have more berries. I have some quick rolled oats, sugar, and again, more wheat berries. So this is everything that I pull from regularly, and that is why it is sitting here behind my couch in front of our kitchen. Is this setup ideal? Absolutely not. It has sunshine coming in, as you can see. It is not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it is life. And so that is what you have to do if you want to have any kind of food security in a small house, more than just a couple days, couple weeks, couple months, is you have to start thinking outside the box and see what you are comfortable with doing. There's other places you could store, and I will go over that shortly. And so our pantry philosophy is function over aesthetics, like I have said. I definitely, yes, my house is on social media, but I definitely don't prioritize Instagram, Pinterest readiness. It's just not who I am. I mean, it's not who I am. I'd rather give you guys real life to hopefully help somebody else kind of see their situation. Let me just kind of tell you what the main things are that we stock in our house. We have flour, wheat berries. So wheat berries I have more of than all-purpose flour, and that is because they store longer and they're more nutritious. If you are not somebody who has a grain mill, then you're gonna stock the flour that you use. The problem is with pre-ground flour, it will go to waste if you don't get through it enough. So you need to make sure that you are rotating and that you are storing it properly in a 5-gallon bucket, that you are freezing it first, all those kinds of things. Rice, oats, beans, lentils, if your family eats those. That was my mistake. My family does not like lentils or green or the split peas as much as myself and my husband. My kids could care less for them. So I have buckets and buckets of them and bags and jars of them, and they're not eating them. So yes, they store forever, and they better store forever because we're going through them slow. So if your family doesn't eat it now, don't store it. Pasta, baking supplies, so things like sugar, vanilla extract stays for quite a while. You can make your own if you're buying good quality vanilla beans. That's what I've been doing. I actually need to do it again. I'm running low, and by low I mean I only have about a half gallon left, but it takes 6 months to 18 months to actually become a good vanilla extract. So it's something that you have to plan long-term ahead of time. Oils, honey. Oils is kind of like flour. They can go rancid if you are not storing them properly. Honey never goes, even if it crystallizes, just warm it up over the stove in some water like a double boiler. Vinegar, tomato products, and spices. And also my herbs that I use medicinally, not just for cooking. Those are my main things. From all of that I can pull together meals, snacks, make things, and not have to run to the store. Obviously, dairy products, things like butter, I can freeze. And then there's also like milk itself. You can freeze milk jugs, but I also did start buying milk powder. If you've seen my recent Azure haul, you'll have seen that. And that is just for my long-term storage. You have your short-term, your intermediate term, and your very long-term storage. I don't have a freeze dryer, so I have to rely on places like Azure for that. And I will show you what I have and how I am storing all of that. So if you saw any of my other early videos, you'll know my herbs. I just wanted to show you, I keep all of them out here. Unfortunately, there is, you know, sunshine and everything, but you make do with what you have. This is medicinal purposes. This is just medicinal. This is not cooking. Yes, I could pull from some of these for cooking. I don't. I make teas, if you call that, teas from this. And then you'll see some of these are from the garden, which I will get to that because that is another way to fill your pantry. But places like Mountain Rose Herbs, Star West Botanicals, Azure, like these are from the lemons and the oranges are from Azure. Frontier Co-op is another good one. Those are my main sources outside of my garden for things. unless you just locally source too. So I do have like an everyday pantry kind of thing. It's in multiple places. So I have things like my millet, I have the instant oatmeal that I have made. I have like our nuts and everything are up here. And down here I have more of like my pre-made spices and soups. So this one is my baking quick pantry. Again, it's right next to my stove. My date syrups, the brown Rice Krispies, the beef gelatin, the baking powder. Well, this is the excess baking powder. It's not the one that I use all day long. Oats, so I pull, because in my bulk buckets, that's where the majority of this is stored. And then I just have quick things, so like my popcorn, powdered sugar, baking soda, all of this kind of stuff, buttermilk powder, more salt. I mean, there's so much stuff up in here, even brown rice. So you can see I have like the xanthan gum, buttermilk powder, some extra sweeteners, cocoa powders, arrowroot powders. This is where I pull from for that. And it's just right in my kitchen ease. This is not necessarily the long-term. Arrowroot, I do have a lot though. So I'm just utilizing, as you can see, it is chaotic. So it is on my list to make it a little bit more user-friendly, but my brain, I know where everything is. Okay, so you guys have seen this if you've been watching any of my other videos that I pull from. Again, I put all the stuff from the buckets into here for easy reach. And then up top, I have jams and jellies that I have made. So up here, jams and jellies, extra jars. And on this day, as I'm heading back to my risen dough now, I decided to go ahead and make a loaf of bread and then also some rolls, just because rolls, you know, obviously they cook faster because they're not as dense as a loaf of bread. And my kids were, you know, at my heels hungry. So I wanted to get them something that would help fill their bellies a lot faster than just 1 or 2 loaves of bread. And so, like I said, this came out really well and light and airy and fluffy. If you are currently using fresh ground flour to make your bread, let me know. Have you ventured into experimenting like this? Are you finding any tips and tricks like using the milk or egg or apple cider vinegar that has been helpful to you? Let me know in the comments. So I have shared this recipe with you guys a couple different times. It was originally Jessica's from Three Rivers Homestead. And so I'm just going to let you know what I have changed in it. So it did originally call for 4 teaspoons of yeast, 1 tablespoon of honey, to which I switched to about 1/4 cup of honey, 2 cups of water, to which I swapped out for milk, 5 cups of fresh ground flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of oil, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 egg I have added to it. And this seems to be my favorite recipe, especially since this day. I will try and remember to put that in the video description for you guys. But I highly recommend that you give this a try, especially if you're new to the fresh ground flour. It can feel a little intimidating. So this loaf of bread started as a bucket of wheat berries tucked next to our couch, and now it's going to be feeding my family. So we're in the garage. Kicked my husband out. This is just I think it's like a 20 something cubic feet, I guess is what you heard. I think this is a 20 cubic feet freezer that we got in 2020. And then we have a refrigerator, which would, you know, the top freezer, the old school small thing. So this is a workhorse around here, our deep freezer, and I'll show you in a second. But then we have this. This one doesn't work as well, so I don't put as much stuff in here, but things like the pre-ground flour I put in here. And then stuff in here I will show you, but this is the overflow, or for things like if I buy bulk produce, or if I have a lot of produce coming in from the garden, or like the quick pickles that I've done, the apple cider that I was making, all of that stuff that I'm not going to need on a regular basis comes out here. This is obviously an extra cost. It is not necessarily economical to do something like this if you are, especially if you are in an area that loses power quite easily and you don't necessarily have the means or the capability of having a backup generator. That is not us, thankfully. We are in Northern California. It's rare that we lose power these days. So I'm comfortable putting probably thousands of dollars into this freezer. So those are things that you need to consider when you're trying to figure out how you want to store food long term. So let me show you what I have. If you saw the recent grocery haul, you know that I said that this was really full, and I've been going through it over the last week or so, and it's still pretty full. And we're gonna do this quickly because it's hot and I'm letting all the cold air out. But these right here are very helpful. Let me bring you in a little closer. So over here, you can see I have like popsicles, meats. I mean, we have, like I said, butter. You can hold all of that. I think there's some old garden produce down in there. The thing with these deep freezers like this is unless you're taking inventory, which I do every once in a while, things can get lost. Oh, okay. So things like coffee beans you can store up on and keep in the freezer like this. Juices. I mean, this is so much more economical, and it's 100% juice. When there's no sugar added, all of that kind of stuff. And so you're not paying for the water. You're paying for the juice concentrate. So economical. There's just a lot of odds and ends. Again, chaos. I'm not lying. On this side, you can see like we are at the brim. I do like to keep all of my bones. So as you can see, I'm kind of filling up on bones, and I need to start making some broth. See, organic chicken innards, more innards. So I do have some little bit of rhyme or reason. And then veggies, I have more fruits and stuff down in here. But this, I'm gonna close it now. Have the capability of doing a deep freezer of any size. Definitely recommend. I would love to have another stand-up freezer. My husband tells me no. If you saw the garage, you'd understand why. And then also California electricity is insane. So, like I said, in here, I have like my extra yeast, more yeast. This big opening in there is, well, you can't see. I have things like hot peppers from the garden that are in here. My overflow of sauces, so I didn't can this one because it wasn't full. Same thing with like broths and, you know, chicken noodle soups, just different things that are quick. Breads that I can use to make breadcrumbs that I showed you. Waffles, all that kind of stuff. I say that. So this is not the big workhorse freezer. The bottom, so this fridge, like I said, is just like the overflow of butter, the whey from the yogurt, the cheeses, some herbal remedies, extra like bacon grease, more butter, apples that I bought in bulk from Azure, keeping them in there so they don't go bad, bacons, eggs, the cabbage down here from, this is cabbage from my garden. I got a couple of these in here. Normally you'd see a lot of milk. Just realized we only have one milk left. So this is how, for a family of 7, we're able to buy in bulk, do one generally large grocery haul through Costco, Winco, Azure, and store it for the month. You definitely have to have systems in place. It's not something you can just go do willy-nilly. Please don't. Hopefully this is helpful for you to see our setup. So as you can see, I am trying to cut this and they're still quite warm, but my children, like I said, were quite hungry and wanted me to make them some sandwiches. So this worked out absolutely wonderful, and the steam is there, but you can see how well it turned out. And these are the conditioner bars a couple days later. They're definitely not as hard as soap, which is good. You don't want them that hard so that it can be nice and creamy in your hair. And these were absolutely wonderful. And I do have the recipe on the blog for you guys. I had mentioned before that we are in a very small house, and this is my pantry slash laundry room. And as you can see, I would also consider it just a catch-all room. We store so much in here, And most of this probably would be in somebody's garage if they don't have a pantry. Unfortunately, like I said, we utilize that for business purposes for my husband. And this is what it looks like. I do need to clean out some more of my buckets and start putting these bags into them just for long-term storage where I'm not worried about rats or bugs right now. That is not a problem that we have personally had. But if that is something that you have in your area, definitely don't leave them out like this. My tomato products, the oils, I have more canning things. I, of course, have more herbs in here because I always go overboard. More of my DIY projects, especially for the blog and when I had my herbal shop. And then I am drying out some of my garden staples like elderberries and the cayenne peppers, my tinctures and my hydrosols and everything like that just gets stored in here until we can either have a better system or a bigger house. Utilize things like this on a back of a door that you don't normally close, which we don't in here. And you can see it really does add so much more space for like my herbs, my extra bulk teas, and even some vegetable dips that I had previously gotten. It's just a wonderful and inexpensive hack to have more space. All of these cabinets are pretty stuffed. I have our canned meats like the chicken and tuna, and then I also have the whole milk and some lemon juice there, and then the honey that I had mentioned. These are the gallon jugs that I get from Azure Standard. It's just great to have on hand, and I do have more jars back there of homemade apple scrap and peach scrap vinegars. I do have a lot of my canning supplies here, like the pinto beans. I have garbanzo beans, black beans, like I had mentioned. I just have things in varying capacities. The beef broth I have, or chicken broth rather, I think is what I currently have. I have canned up, like I showed you previously. I do still have some in the freezer. And then finally, the Mylar bags that I have stored absolutely everywhere throughout the house with the overflow of beans. They just sit there and they will be good for 20 years or so, if not longer. And all of this pasta as well. We are not that big of a pasta family, but I am starting to really increase our pasta storages. This video encourages you to remember that you don't have to do everything at once. Our pantry didn't get built in a day, and we certainly didn't learn all of these skills overnight. Whether it's learning to bake bread, trying a homemade recipe, growing a few herbs, or simply setting aside a little extra food each time you shop, every small step adds up over time. For me, this isn't about fear. It's about creating a home that's a little more resilient, a little more intentional, and a little less dependent than it was yesterday. I'd love to know in the comments what's one skill you're learning right now, or what's one thing you're doing to become a little more prepared. We can all learn from each other. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, friends. Bye.